Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Roundup. So, Microsoft are rumored to be expanding xCloud in a way that I think would, quite slaughter Stadia and be a pretty good value. Then Riot have fully unveiled their next game. COVID-19 is also wreaking havoc on parts of the industry, and more, with Dead or Alive 6 being so money-grabbing that it's honestly just kind of funny, and CSGO really showing its immense staying power. Now, if you're new here, then hello, we're a narrative game studio. Hit up our mailing list and site down below. We also do 6 game industry news and analysis videos per week, so if you're down for more of that, hit that sub button, and if you'd like to help us out with the algorithm, then the like button and those comments seriously do help. And with that, let's get into the news. So to kick things off, we've got some rather big news with xCloud via Brad Sams, who has got a pretty darn proven track record on such news. So he reports that not only will xCloud allow you to stream Xbox One games to mobile devices and laptops, but also that sources close to Microsoft are claiming that it will also work for PC games. Now, this would actually be quite major. Allowing console and PC games to be streamed would be going quite a way towards linking the whole cross-platform Xbox library for access pretty much everywhere and on any device. Now, this idea makes a lot of sense in the grand scheme of Microsoft's more recent ambitions to make this big unified gaming ecosystem of hardware and software, with really an emphasis on accessibility across platforms, which does make sense. Microsoft pretty much are all about growth. Now, with Game Pass being a part of all of this stuff, that would actually mean having both console and PC Games Pass libraries streamable everywhere. Now, that is actually a lot of games. That is somewhat more than Stadia's current 28 games, and it's probably more than their planned 120 across this year. Now, supporting your existing library and having a massive value bundle just makes this a pretty good thing from the customer side of things, and if successful, this could be, I'd say, a major part of Microsoft's next-gen strategy to just bring games to as many people as is possible and to open things up as much as possible so that, yes, they can sell as many services and games as they can. Right now, I think it would crush their main competition. I mean, if you buy a game in Stadia, that's it. If you buy a game in xCloud, well, for xCloud, then you can also download it and play it locally, and that just means that night and day, it is totally different in terms of the value proposition that both platforms offer. So yes, it does not bode well for Stadia. Now, it's unclear whether Steam games that are Microsoft will be compatible with this service, or whether it's just exclusively for, the Microsoft Store titles. I actually would expect the latter, given how Game Pass works. That's not ideal, but equally it's not something I'd hold massively against them, because the Steam option is there. Certainly though, if they, could offer it for Steam copies, that would be pretty darn incredible. Then wrapping this up with final points, I think it ties also into the Series X's smart delivery feature, and basically, yeah, it's just Xbox trying to unite things under a big player-friendly banner so they can grow as much as they possibly can and sell as many games as they can. I think that, without a lot of big exclusives to actually lure people in, they really know that instead they've got to compete on value and user experience. So it'll certainly be interesting to see how those strategies clash. Now, as a service, I think it's also an interesting mix with GeForce Now also existing. Right now, I don't believe that the likes of Master Chief Collection are actually on GeForce Now, and that would make sense in the context of, Microsoft wanting to push those things on xCloud. Now, that said, if Steam owners of Master Chief Collection can't use GeForce Now, then I think that would be a little bit disappointing. So we'll have to wait and see how that actually pans out. Okay, next, and in a story that, cost us about $1,500, GDC has been cancelled. This is, of course, because of COVID-19. Now, this is also following many of the big names like Unity, Microsoft, EA, Activision, Blizzard, and many others pulling out of GDC. Now, GDC is probably not something that's thought of too much by customers of games, but it is very, very important for developers for 2 main reasons. First, there's just your knowledge, your network, and that kind of thing. But secondly, business. Now, if you think of Gamescom, then you are probably thinking of big, shiny show floors full of fans. Well, yes, but also in Gamescom, there are 4 halls that are only for trade visitors, and that is where people are organizing meetings on platforms like Meet to Match, and that's where a lot of very useful work in the games industry actually gets done. Well, that and the bar afterwards. Now, that's mainly in starting and maintaining relationships with potential partners, so GDC is a major thing for that, and it being cancelled certainly will will hold people's plans back, and that's not even mentioning the expense of actually getting there. Now, as I said, that's our trip cancelled, of course, after having booked flights and hotels before COVID-19 was, actually something that people knew about, so that really hit a lot of people. Overall, though, I think it is the correct move for GDC to be postponed until a later date, but it just does show the impact of the virus. In other industries, Mobile World Congress was axed. Many other conventions and conferences have just been axed in general. The global supply chain for pins, that has been completely shut down, and that means that all of our pin merchandise that we do on our Warcraft Patreon, well, that's all delayed. And that's, of course, not to take away from the human angle of this, of course. I'm mostly just bringing this up to show just how vulnerable the economy is to disruption with things like this, especially now that supply buffers that are in retailers and distributors are probably going to start running out soon, and that probably means that customers will start to feel it a good bit more. Okay, next up, Riot's new game Valorant has been revealed. It's a free-to-play 5 versus 5 tactical hero shooter that is set to release this summer, with a beta test arriving pretty soon. And on the face of things, it's a cross between CSGO and Overwatch, right? Less the Overwatch, more the CSGO, absolutely. Valorant's main game mode is basically just bomb defusal. Even looking at the buy menu, things are highly similar with buying your weapons. And the op and the scout are basically there in Valorant. Now, each match has got 25 rounds. The first to, 13 wins is the winner. Looking at the gameplay footage, CSGO is an obvious influence. And this game being free to play does put it into direct competition with one of the biggest shooters in the world. Now, though the comparison to Overwatch does come because of Valorant's, its characters and its abilities, it's clear that Valorant is doing things pretty differently to Overwatch. The roster is smaller and the abilities just seem a lot more, I would say, tactical. They're less I win buttons, and I think they're far more I've opened up an opportunity buttons, which seems closer to CS, at least from what I can tell from the gameplay footage. Now, aside from a single free ability per character, skills that have to be purchased each round as single-use items, and that is obviously far closer to CSGO than it is to Overwatch. You can't switch characters, in a round. Your items persist until the next round if you don't die. So again, it is far more like CSGO as a game. And overall, I'd say I think that's very good for the state of the game. I really like having that economic angle being involved. I think that adds another dimension to strategies and actually helps with a bit of self-balancing. Now, monetization-wise, Valorant is not going to have loot boxes. Instead, it will be going for cosmetics that will just be available for direct purchase, and then a battle pass. And really, Riot are going pretty hard here. It's about time they had some other games out there. I'm actually surprised we're seeing it so soon after the reveal, I'll admit that much. For me, gameplay-wise, I think things look really solid. There is a cleanliness that I think is perfect for the CSGO-like experience they seem to be going for, and that I've expected from it. And art style-wise, I think it's a very clean, readable look. I think that's probably best for the gameplay. I think that's more important than it looking flashy, and I think it's good they've went in that direction. Now, that said, it's going to have an uphill battle to fight. CSGO is dominant, as you're going to see in our next story. That said, Riot are strong. They've got a lot of money and a large install base, so I expected for CSGO pros this could be a strong side game. I think a lot of that CSGO audience will probably feel okay playing this game, and it might eat away at Overwatch a bit. There's a lot of Overwatch pros who are pretty sad that game can't be carried, and Valorant seems like far more of a game where a single player can carry. So if Riot can replicate their usual esports success, then I could see this being a pretty big game indeed. Then finally, I suppose, one other thing I just want to bring up is Riot are not that creative. It's kind of funny. They don't push the envelope at all, do they? They really just seem to rely on excellent execution and fine-tuning more than big new ideas. So from a customer perspective, that's not super exciting, but I will say that at least what they do put out is generally quite polished and high quality and good fun. So really, that's probably what will matter the most to players. Next up, and of course very relevant to Valorant, CSGO has had an incredible time recently, breaking its peak concurrent player record last weekend with 924,000 players at once. Concurrents have overall been steadily increasing since May of 2019, and they've not been below 500k since August 2018. Then IEM peaked at over 1 million concurrent viewers across YouTube and Twitch over the weekend, and they really are just stunning numbers. They show that Riot have a large market they can capture, but also they've got their work cut out for them, and I think it also shows that games that just focus on doing well by their core players and the core gameplay actually can do quite well. It certainly has worked for CS. Then finally, another funny horror story that I think you'll enjoy from the wonderfully monetized world of Dead or Alive 6. So in the most recent DLC was teased, or round of DLC, the PS4 exclusive opportunity to change your character's hair color was also confirmed. The feature's here, and it is a lot more expensive and ridiculous than many players could have possibly anticipated. Every time you alter a character, it costs a premium ticket. Now, the smallest amount of premium tickets that can actually be purchased is 2, and that costs $1.99. There are no discounts unless 20 plus are purchased at once. So, in other words, it basically costs $1 to change your character's hair color. And also, while your costumes and premium tickets are actually stored server-side, well, the hair color changes, they're tied to your save data. So if your save data goes, then so does those premium customizations that you've made. And also, you don't even unlock the hair color, you just pay to change it. And that means that changing from brown to pink will cost $1, but then changing back to brown will also cost $1. So yes, this feature is very much aimed at its most hardcore fans, and I think it shows the length to which certain games are willing to go to squeeze those fans as much as they can. Such as the power of, well, it's Dead or Alive. I think you know what I mean. Very powerful. A lot of people will put their money into that. And certainly if you look at the ridiculous quantity of DLC that game has, yes, customizations, costumes, and things like that are extremely important to its business model. Anyway, that is it for today's news. There was another video up today, and I really think you should check it out. It's a pretty interesting one covering Stadia and just them really seeming to fail developers. So I think you'll enjoy that one. You can check it out. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.